Hello everyone and welcome to this lesson, an intro to transport in mammals. As we know, animals like mammals are a lot more active than something like, let's say, plants, and they perform a lot of activities that are much more energy consuming. This energy comes from the process of respiration, which occurs in the mitochondria. This process uses oxygen to break down glucose in order to generate the energy that our cell needs, and in the process, it also produces carbon dioxide as a waste product. When organisms are sufficiently small, they can usually get the nutrients and oxygen that they need and expel their waste products simply through processes like diffusion, active transport, and osmosis. However, when we look at larger, more complex organisms, they tend to be more metabolically active and so have a higher demand for things like nutrients and oxygen, and they also produce larger amounts of waste products that are going to need to be removed. For these organisms, processes like diffusion alone are not going to be enough to meet their requirements. You see, the really small organisms have a larger surface area compared to their total volume, which gives them a large surface area to volume ratio. This means that relative to their volume, they have a large area of membrane available across which substances may diffuse into and out of their cells. As an organism's size increases, its volume increases at a faster rate relative to its surface area. So the surface area to volume ratio decreases as the organism gets bigger. This also leads to the distance that substances need to diffuse, or the diffusion distance, increasing as well. A lower surface area to volume ratio and a greater diffusion distance make the process of diffusion much less efficient. This is why, as we get to larger organisms, processes like diffusion alone are not enough to fulfill their requirements. To overcome this problem, large organisms have transport systems, which will help to deliver oxygen and nutrients to the cells and to remove waste products. Now, in mammals, the main transport system is going to be the circulatory system. This consists of the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood itself that runs through those vessels. It's this blood that acts as the medium through which substances can travel around the body. For example, it's the blood that carries the oxygen to our cells, and it's the blood that carries waste products like carbon dioxide away. This blood travels across our body within a system of interconnected tubes called blood vessels, and it's pumped through these tubes by the heart. So, it's the beating of the heart that allows the blood to circulate through the blood vessels and transport substances to and from our cells. This is extremely important because without this circulation, the cells wouldn't be delivered enough oxygen, and waste products like carbon dioxide wouldn't be taken away. This could eventually kill these cells. So it's absolutely imperative for the survival of our cells that our blood keeps circulating through our blood vessels. It's for this reason that our heart beats non-stop, starting even before we're born and continuing until the moment we die. Now, like we mentioned, as our blood is pumped out of our heart, it goes into blood vessels. Throughout its journey around our body, this blood is going to remain within these blood vessels. This is why our circulatory system is known as a closed blood system, because the blood remains enclosed within the blood vessels.
Quick pause. If you're finding value in this explanation, there's so much more to discover at Alt Academy, where we break down every A-level concept with the same clarity. Now back to the video lesson.
Now, there are a few different types of blood vessels, but let's start with the arteries and arterioles. These are the blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. You can remember A for away and A for artery or arteriole. These vessels usually carry high pressure oxygenated blood. And note that I said usually because there is an important exception to this that we'll talk about later. Now, there are two arteries that arise from the heart. One of them takes blood from the heart to the lungs. This is called the pulmonary artery. The second one takes blood from the heart to the rest of the body. This is called the aorta. If we follow the aorta, we see that it divides further into many smaller arteries that will carry the blood to various different tissues. As the arteries reach the tissue, they then start branching into even smaller vessels called arterioles. So again, it's the arteries that branch further to give rise to the arterioles. These arterioles are going to be smaller than the arteries, but structurally they're quite similar. One important difference though is that arterioles have a greater proportion of smooth muscle in their walls. This helps them to control their diameter and so control the volume of blood that's flowing into a particular tissue at a particular time. Now, the arterioles themselves will then branch further to give rise to the smallest of all the blood vessels, the capillaries. The role of these capillaries is to carry the blood as close as possible to all the cells, allowing substances to be transferred between the cells and the blood. In order to do this, they form this network in the tissue called a capillary bed. After the exchange of substances has taken place, as the capillaries are leaving the capillary bed, they gradually join with each other to form larger vessels called venules. Finally, these venules join together to form veins, and it's the veins that carry the blood back to the heart. All the veins that are carrying the blood from the body towards the heart eventually combine to form the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, and it's these that finally bring the blood back to the heart. Likewise, it's the pulmonary vein that brings blood from the lungs back to the heart. Now, if we look a little closer at the heart, we see that it is divided into two sides, the right and the left, by a muscular wall known as the septum. Each of these sides are then further divided into two chambers, and these chambers are separated by valves. The upper chambers are called the atria, singular atrium, and these are what receive the blood from the veins. The lower chambers are called the ventricles, and these are what pump the blood into the arteries. Now, let's do something interesting. Let's follow the path that the blood will take as it completes one entire circuit around our body, and we'll start from the left ventricle. The left ventricle is going to pump oxygen-rich blood into the aorta. The aorta will then carry this blood to the rest of the body in order to deliver oxygen to our cells. When this blood returns from the rest of the body back to the heart, it will be depleted of oxygen, or deoxygenated. This deoxygenated blood will be delivered to the right atrium of the heart by the vena cava. From there, it will be moved into the right ventricle, which will then pump it into the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery will then carry this deoxygenated blood to the lungs in order to replenish its oxygen levels. From the lungs, the now oxygenated blood will be brought back to the heart by the pulmonary vein. The pulmonary vein will deliver this oxygenated blood into the left atrium of the heart. From here, this oxygenated blood will now move into the left ventricle, and now we're back where we started, ready to be pumped back into the aorta. As you can see, with each complete circuit, the blood actually travels twice through the heart, forming two separate loops or two separate circulations. One circulation is where the blood goes from the heart to the rest of the body to deliver oxygen and comes back. This is called the systemic circulation because the blood is being taken to all the different organ systems. The other circulation is where the blood goes from the heart to the lungs and back in order to get oxygenated. This is called the pulmonary circulation. Because we have two separate circulations in each circuit that the blood travels, our circulatory system can also be called a double circulatory system. This, combined with the fact that we have a closed system, makes the mammalian circulatory system a closed double circulation. We'll talk about each component of the circulatory system in more detail in other lessons. All right, to sum up, in this lesson, we said that the mammalian transport system is a circulatory system consisting of the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood that flows through them. This blood is the medium through which many substances, such as oxygen and carbon dioxide as important examples, are transported. The reason we need a circulatory system is because larger and more complex animals, like mammals for example, have a much higher energy demand. This means that they're going to need more nutrients and oxygen, and they're going to produce more carbon dioxide that needs to be removed. For larger animals with a lower surface area to volume ratio and a greater diffusion distance, things like diffusion alone are not going to be enough to fulfill their requirements. This is why we have a circulatory system, so that we can efficiently deliver nutrients and oxygen to all of our cells and remove their waste products. Finally, one last thing I want to mention before we conclude this lesson is that thanks to it being a closed system, the circulatory system of animals like mammals has a greater degree of control as to how much blood is delivered to different parts of the body. This is in contrast to an open system, which we see, for example, in insects, which have a lot less control. As you can see, in the open system, the organs are directly bathed by the hemolymph, but in the closed system, the blood is moving within blood vessels. This way, the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood are kept separate and don't mix with each other, making the closed system more efficient. With that, we have reached the end of this lesson. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey there! If you found this A-level biology lesson helpful, why don't you head over to altacademy.org and sign up for our full A-level biology course. In addition to biology, you could sign up for physics, chemistry, math, or 4 other A-level subjects. Thousands of students have already taken the leap. What are you waiting for? See you there.